Coming at you live, covering all things professional wrestling. A show by members of the Busted Open Nation. Welcome to the Nation's Corner. Here are your hosts, the Nation's Corner crew.
Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row, joined by Deb, the Great and Powerful, and John in South Jersey. What's up, y'all?
What's going on?
What's happening?
Well, it seems like we just had our first of the year show, and now it's closing 2024. This was a really fast year. Like, holy crap!
Yes, it was.
Incredibly.
Yes, it was.
So I figured, because Deb did this really cool graphic for the show, I figured we'd talk a little bit of 2024 and sort of what we're expecting for 2025. It's like we're in this interesting place now where wrestling's at one of the highest points it's ever been, financially, merchandising, like public awareness, like pop culture wise. We're seeing wrestlers in movies and TV, and like they're being treated like actors and not wrestlers, and there's a lot of cool shit going on right now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just get your thoughts on like what are a couple things that you liked from 2024 that you're like, oh man, I'm really glad that happened.
For me personally, I think the biggest highlight of the year was our WrestleMania weekend trip. We didn't actually go to WrestleMania, but we all just had an incredible time with everything that we did. We've told stories here and there throughout the year on this show, but we just had so much freaking fun, and it's just awesome whenever any of us in the group get to see each other in person.
Very true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, absolutely. Top of the list was WrestleMania Philly. Spending the long weekend with all of you. All the places we went. Oh, the places we went and the things we saw. But it was actually very special to me because my daughter, Brooke, our resident medical advisor, made the trip up from Florida to spend the weekend with us as well. And it was the first time that we ever went to any live wrestling events together. We watched on TV and everything for years, but it was cool to have something together finally. And then a close second, which is going to now be my yearly tradition, was WrestleCade in North Carolina with Front Row and the gracious Airbnb that he rented for me to stay in. It was a lovely. It's a very unique Airbnb if you go, especially the time of year that is Thanksgiving and Christmas around the corner. There's literally a Christmas tree in every room, and it's very festive. It's just fantastic, and the accommodations could not be any better. So I highly recommend get with Front Row and find out the name of that Airbnb. And if you have the opportunity to be in the North Carolina area, Charlotte area, absolutely book it.
I appreciate the kind words, and we are still waiting on the Yelp review, but I'm sure you're working on that. So
they haven't emailed me yet.
Okay. A couple things that you said that like I want to echo, because one of my favorite meet and greets this year was Brooke. Getting to meet Brooke in person was awesome.
Yes.
I was it was just an awesome weekend, and getting to see you guys together at the events, and like as a parent, it was really cool for me to see as well. Although she did kind of bust your balls a lot, so but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
There she is. Yes, there's no doubt. And just as a side note to your side note, yeah, the rumors are true. She is mine. She is my daughter. And if you meet her in person, you will, there. Yeah, it's there. There.
Yep, for sure.
There it is.
A lot of people in the chat. I want to say hi to everybody. See Michael, good to see you. Thank you, sir, for joining. Appreciate you. I want to just Yeah, so we've I guess we've talked about the WrestleMania weekend a lot. It was definitely a huge highlight for me as well.
Mm.
I'll just touch on a couple of WrestleCade things because I don't think John, you and I have been on the show together since WrestleCade, not at the same time. It was really cool. Last year there was like 8 or 9,000 fans. This year they had in excess of 22,000, according to Tracy Myers, who runs the event, and with his partner Brian. Yeah, just I mean, anybody you want to meet in wrestling, they're there.
Yeah.
Really, everybody except
I-
WWE people, and there were WWE people there, not signing, just randomly roaming about.
That's awesome.
That's very true.
Joanne Evans was just sort of walking around talking to people, just, catching up with friends and whatnot. But yeah, it was a really cool event, and being able to, I highly recommend anybody who can go follow them on all the socials because literally the tickets go on sale in February, and like the tickets, the first for the first 4 rows are reserved VIP tickets, and they sell out almost instantly, like within a few.
Wow.
So I know last year when they went on sale, like I knew the deal, so I jumped on them, and I only got second row tickets, and I was on it like the moment they went on sale. So yeah, and that the tickets, it's a few $100, but it gets you until like the entire weekend. You just get basically John and I what said no to lines, and we just went around and did everything we wanted to do. We waited for nothing. It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I would love to at some point get down there for that.
It would be pretty cool if the whole group could get together for something like that, because it's, especially if you're staying in one of the 4 hotels that are around the building, because all the wrestlers, all the fans, it's a concentrated area, and everybody's cool. Like nobody's bothering anybody. It's just like, hey, there's Mick Foley. Hey, Mick. It's like you just see people walking around. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to one of my favorite things in wrestling that happened this year was, and it didn't start this year, but it was really a big culmination this year, was the TNA NXT partnership.
Yeah.
I've heard all the experts talk about it. We've heard the Busted Open people talk about it. Us as fans enjoyed it. It sounds like it was a huge win for everybody involved, and I'm super excited for all the wrestlers that got to participate in the cross promotional stuff. And there was a lot of it, and it doesn't sound like it's over, which is great.
I hope
so. For me, that was a really exciting thing for me this year, because I love seeing that, like Triple H is going, no, I think we're going to do business with these people because it's going to help the industry. I like that. I like that perspective.
Yeah. So for me, that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen, throughout 2024. And like you said, it did kind of start in 2023 as well, is the willingness for WWE in the new era to be a part of the wrestling community as a whole. We spent so many years where WWE was kind of isolated in their own little world and kind of pretended like the rest of pro wrestling didn't exist. And now they're not only participating in the rest of the community, but acknowledging the fact that they can do partnerships and they can work with other people and it's not going to hurt them. Like there's no drawback to it. And that's just something that's really, really cool to see. Nobody's gunning to put anybody out of business anymore. They're just, I would like to see, especially obviously with WWE and AEW, it's a little bit different there with that situation. But I really, really would love to see it come to the point where they can just coexist. Like both of them can do well. Nobody's trying to put the other one out of business, and they can just coexist and just do their thing.
It's funny because when we were at WrestleCade, we paid attention to who had long lines and who had, and it was interesting because Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich, who were normally popular anyway, they had massive lines. I mean, like they were all day, like the whole day on Friday and Saturday, they were just constantly signing. And I'm sure a lot of that is in large part to the larger platform that they got, or not Masha, but like Jordan through NXT. And of course the Rumble and all that other stuff. So I'm super excited to see the Rumble this year, because you're like, okay, there's like a bunch of companies out there now that might have somebody in there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So to see them individually profit or benefit from and just the excitement of the fans, and I heard people talking to them going, "Hey man, it was so cool to see you." And so and I'd like to think that based on what Tommy has said on the show, that TNA has benefited significantly because they're selling out all their events and their numbers are up and their merchandise is up and all that other stuff. So it sounds like it was super cool. But you're right, it's across the board. It's that whole mentality of, all right, we're an industry and we all need to like work together to build this thing. So
lift each other up.
Yeah,
and it really is like that, seemingly amongst the wrestlers anyway. I really, we've kind of talked about this before, the tribalism of I only like this and I don't like that. That's just amongst fans. And of course it's always going to exist. It always has in a way. But that's really just amongst fans. Like, we've heard countless times from wrestlers, current and past, of them just saying, hey, I'm happy that other people that I'm friends with are able to make a living doing this. Like there's not only one place that they can make a decent living.
Right. Here's some, not a little off topic, but going into 2025, can we please normalize that seeing wrestler A from company A backstage at company B event is fucking normal?
Yes.
Everybody came from somewhere. So chances are most of the quote unquote stars for any company have friends and people that they know that may work in other companies or other things. They've met. They know each other.
They've met,
It's normal. Okay? Don't make a big deal out of it. All you dirt sheet readers and everything out there, it's no big deal. It's no big deal.
That's also the thing. It's kind of that kind of thing is fueled by the dirt sheets going, oh, guess who was seen backstage? Guess who was seen in the parking lot talking to so-and-so? Like, they're just going to say hi to a friend. Like, it's no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'm friends with a lot of people. None of them work where I work. None of them.
Yeah.
We all work at different places.
None of them work at my job.
Right. Yep. And yet it doesn't make the dirt sheets every time I go to my friend's place of business for lunch. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. And that should be no different for wrestling.
Yeah. But it is an interesting thing. And of course they play into it sometimes.
Yes.
Which can be fun depending on who it is. So there's a bunch of big stuff coming up for 2025, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on it because I don't really want to go into all the business details because I don't have anything in front of me. But in case you haven't heard, Raw's going to Netflix. It's very exciting.
Really?
I just read it.
Brand new information.
Yeah, breaking news.
We have no sounder.
We have no sound.
We don't have.
Yeah. But for reals, like I watched the Netflix, the Raw to Netflix thing from the HQ building to this week. It's a massive deal. I mean, like it is a huge deal for a pro wrestling company to be on Netflix live every week, and 280 million subscribers is pretty crazy. But to see the industry buzz is really neat. To see everybody's excitement about it. As a fan, like all I know is they're going to a platform that's going to give them more freedom from a time constraints perspective and from a content perspective. Triple H has been very clear that they're not changing the rating of the show. It's still going to be, a family-friendly product. However, there's more stuff that they can do because they're not beholden to 20 different high-level, they're getting paid. So I think it's going to be very interesting, especially now they're already lining up some heavy hitters for that first episode. And there's all this wild speculation about who may or may not show up. Are we going to see The Rock? Are we going to, we know they're playing Cena's music for every ad for that thing. So I'm assuming he's going to be on there.
I would think.
So what are you guys thinking about? Like, well, two questions. What are you thinking about the move? And how are you feeling about people having to subscribe to more streaming services?
Well, okay, so for me, we've had a lot of discussions about this, off air, but for me personally, it's a huge plus. Those of us who have YouTube TV just received an email last week that the price is increasing to $82 a month. And I have a bunch of other streaming services. I literally only sign up for YouTube TV in the first place just to be able to watch my wrestling shows live. And from Raw, SmackDown, and AEW. And with Raw going to Netflix at the beginning of January, AEW streaming on Max, which is equally huge. I really have no reason to pay $82 a month just to watch SmackDown. I'm gonna have to figure something out about SmackDown. I think I might just have to watch social media and YouTube highlights. I'm not sure, but for me, it's a huge plus because I already pay for both Netflix and Max, so I don't have to sign up for something additional. So for me, I'm going to be able to cancel YouTube TV and save myself $80 a month. That's
More wine.
That's big. Yay.
So
but I'm super excited about it. The big things are happening.
Huge.
My thoughts is equally like that. I'm very excited that WWE and just wrestling in general is being able to get billion with a B dollar contracts with very large and prominent global streaming services.
Yeah.
That in itself is huge, not just wrestling news, but entertainment news. Literally anywhere in the country, 280 some odd million subscribers, roughly.
Globally.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
Globally.
Yeah.
You could be in the outback of Australia. If you have internet access, you can put on Netflix and watch wrestling if you're so inclined. That blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
That, when we thought that, some of us remember that watching a closed circuit broadcast of WrestleMania at a movie theater was a huge deal. To see where it's come to now, and I think honestly what it is the rest of the entertainment world and stuff has caught on to the fact that wrestling is really good. It's really good in a lot of ways. And most importantly, it generates money, which at the end of the day is what anybody gets involved in anything for, is how much money. And Netflix thinks, at $10 billion, they're going to get that money back at least double having WWE as part of their platform. So, as far as the first show on Raw and all that, they are absolutely stacking the deck and making a statement, and they are giving you enough different elements already that you have to watch. The product has been great, and not just for, I wonder what it's going to look like on Netflix. No, you're going to have to tune in January 6th just because you want to see the continuation of the stories they've already been telling. It's just on a different channel. So, and they're absolutely, will we see The Rock? Will we, anybody else come in that's going to make an impact, and like everybody else, see you on Monday night, January 6th on Netflix. We'll find out.
Yeah. And so and Deb's point is super valid too. Like the AEW deal is huge, right? Is it a $5 billion deal? No. But what it is a near $200 million deal a year to put their products on multiple platforms, including cable TV as well as a streaming platform that pretty much 80 or 90 million subscribers have Max. It's a huge platform. So and the really cool thing about the announcements that I've seen, and you guys probably know more than I, but like it's going to be simulcast. So
Amen, Dirty.
which is really cool, right? It's not just next day or in a month. It's you're
Right.
going to watch AEW live on Max, which is awesome.
So you have choice. You have choice of where you want to watch it, depending on your personal preferences. Some people might prefer to watch it still on the regular channel. If they still have regular cable, some people might prefer to go watch it on streaming.
You could be Tommy Dreamer. You could be Tommy Dreamer using your two TiVo machines because he's rich. So
big plus is though, I know AEW clarified this in response to someone who asked a question on social media, is on Max, if you're watching AEW Dynamite or Collision on Max, it is live coast to coast. So we've heard a lot of West Coasters complain that everything they watch is 3 hours behind the East Coast. So like social media interaction can be difficult. Like somebody living in California has to wait 3 hours after it was on live for us. But watching on Max, it'll be live coast to coast. So for those people who, are available to watch it at 5 o'clock and don't want to wait till their 8 o'clock hour, they can watch it live with the rest of the country. So that's a big deal, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it gives them more visibility, it gives them more options from a storytelling perspective. There's other content that they can put on Max. I know they're offering a discounted rate for pay-per-views, which is also a benefit. So people aren't going to be spending
Bleacher Report.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny because Bleacher Report was shit. It was a terrible platform. And then they moved to Triller's great.
Yes.
Formerly Fight TV. They've always been fantastic. But Max is Max, right? They're pretty stable.
Yeah.
They actually have their act together.
Right.
For
right.
real.
So it's all very exciting. We live in exciting times.
It really is. It really is. And one thing I also wanted to mention real quick about the AEW Max deal. So I follow Variety on Twitter. So most people know what Variety is. It's kind of a business publication for the entertainment industry. And so they released this list of deal makers of 2024. And Tony Khan was top of the list. Like when you click on the article, it was like 50 some people in their whole list, and Tony Khan was the first featured, talking about the deal with Max, talking about another wrestling company not called WWE having such a big TV rights and streaming deal. Valuing the company at, I think they said around $2 billion now, making AEW the third most valuable combat sports company. So I think that's huge that it's not just a wrestling publication. This is an entertainment industry business publication that is recognizing Tony Khan and AEW for what they're doing.
Sure. It makes all the sense in the world to acknowledge that because it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Chad in the chat real quick. Chad says that anybody had a problem with WWE is not on Netflix yet. Like Raw's not on Netflix yet, so there's no live streaming yet. The reason that the Tyson Paul fight got all messed up, first of all, there were local production issues. Also, they didn't expect like 60 or 70 million concurrent viewers, which you're not going to get 70 million people watching Raw. So I think we're good. Plus WWE is smart enough to run a shit ton of testing before they go live.
Yeah, they're just
do not worry.
Saying, they're not going to say, "All right, well, fuck it, hit the switch,
let's see what happens."
I'm pretty sure Triple H's response when asked about that after the glitches during that fight, he pretty much said, "Hey, if we have 80 million viewers, I'll take a couple technical difficulties."
That's true. Very true. All right, let's talk some actual wrestling because a lot of stuff happened this week. I just want to hit on a couple of high points. Surprisingly, you guys, I typically gravitate towards a lot of the WWE content. I want to start out with one of my favorite things that's going on in pro wrestling right now, and you have to give them credit. AEW's women's division have got their shit together over the last month.
Yes.
Like, there are multiple storylines going on. There are very good character developments. Mariah May, Tony Storm, Harley Cameron. I mean, there's just some really, really entertaining people. Even stuff like, I'll just land on the Tony Storm stuff for, like, she comes back with amnesia or whatever, and she's hit the reset button. She's like her first day at work and all this other stuff. And she does the interview with RJ City, and we were watching the behind the scenes of that, which was also in character, which was also really entertaining. I just think, given the time and given the airspace, they're running with it.
Yes.
Yes.
It is fantastic. And probably the two most entertaining overall entertaining segments in wrestling right now is Tony Storm and AEW doing this complete crazy reset that everybody's like, what the F? And, and rightfully so, the newly minted women's intercontinental champion, Chelsea Green. Yes. And those are the best entertaining stories in wrestling going on right now. And that's two women, And one other thing, is, especially talking about women's wrestling, if you watched NXT this past week, they did a very interesting and entertaining montage, basically going through the history of specifically the women's division, naming names that are in WWE anymore, but showing that, this is where we started and this is where we're at. And, Roxanne famously saying, I'm the champion. I'm the best woman on the best women's division on the planet. And it's kind of hard to argue that she's not right in saying that. So, but, it's AEW has been on this progression of especially just telling stories, giving us a reason to watch other than just great matches. You'll always get great matches out of AEW. But now they're really starting, or they're putting some emphasis to having a story or having at least something interesting.
Yes.
And absolutely, right now, there's far more interesting stuff going on in the AEW women's division than the men's side of the roster. I mean, honestly, and that is great. And I hope they continue to improve. We've seen, just last week, I believe, every major television show, wrestling television show, women were the main event. Whether that was WWE or Raw or SmackDown on AEW Dynamite on Wednesday and NXT on Tuesday night. So, the days of, it's the bathroom break. No, whether we like it or not, women are coming up front and center and literally punching you in the face saying, yo, dummy, pay attention to this. This is good as well. And bravo, ladies. Bravo.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. The Tony Storm stuff alone is just beautiful and not like anything that anybody expected or predicted. We had like nearly 2 months worth of social media teases. And promos on social media and vignettes. Her retirement announcement. You guys saw her at WrestleCade. And so there was a good build of teases for those who were paying attention, that we knew to expect her soon, but we didn't know what it was going to be. We didn't know she was going to come back as timeless Tony Storm. We didn't know where they were going to go with the character and the story. And I think what we've gotten is just kind of a delight to everyone.
But the dedication to
incredible.
The dedication to the character is incredible, because John and I stood there and watched her meet with these all these fans going, "You're gonna miss me. Make sure you get this picture. This is the last
Yes.
opportunity." Just so good for 5
Yeah.
or 6 hours. She did that nonstop, no breaks.
Mm.
It was incredible.
That is really incredible. And yeah, the sit down with RJ City on Dynamite this week. I know I said to you guys on Zoom, I love how they've gone back to the sit down with RJ, because that's kind of where it all started. When
Yes.
Tony Storm first started, going crazy, and people were like, "What is wrong with her?" They did that series of sit down interviews with RJ. So going back to it is just a really cool little touch. And then for her to just go up to RJ and be like, "Oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so excited that I'm here. This is incredible." It's just so good. And it's such good writing and such good acting. And yeah, like you said, John, there is a lot of storytelling elements on AEW now that I think people really need to start paying attention again. This is the time to start paying attention again if you lost interest, because some good shit is happening and you don't want to miss this.
Yeah, I think there's also an element of like, because I watch it, it's just some of it doesn't grab me, right? So I'm not super negative on the product. It's just some stuff I like and some stuff is hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
A lot of the men's
That's normal.
storylines seem nonsensical. Like I can't make, and Bully's sort of very critical about that stuff on the show too. But like
Yeah.
for me, when we're sitting there all together watching this thing and we all get really quiet and something's happening and you're like, okay, that's what they need to do more of. Whatever's happening on the screen right now, that's got a whole room full of people quiet and paying attention. That's what they need to do more of. Whatever that is, whether it's a match or a promo or a vignette,
Yeah.
like, so I agree. And they're headed in the right direction for sure.
Yeah. So Bully said something on Busted Open the other day that kind of got me thinking. I think he's so right. And he talked about a lot of viewers that left AEW and went back to WWE because WWE became hot and cool again. And he had said, like, what will it take for those viewers to go back to AEW? And his idea really was that, something's going to happen in WWE at some point that people are going to start to interest is going to wane very slightly. He said, whether it's the bloodline, people feel like the bloodline jumped the shark at some point, whatever it is, the show can't be perfect forever. And, for a while now, there's been such a positive morale surrounding WWE that it's at some point, something's going to happen where people might go, "Oh, that storyline isn't as interesting to me. Oh, I didn't like how that went. And maybe I'll go check out the other show then." But I think Bully was so right in that case that AEW just kind of needs to weather the storm and keep their core audience happy and weather the storm until something happens that makes people go, "Maybe I'll check it out again."
See, I disagree entirely. I think that
Really?
is 100% the wrong business approach. You don't just sit around for 5 years waiting for your competitors to lose momentum so you can make some money. You
I
can't
get
just
it.
wait. They
get
have
that, but
to
at the
they have to focus on their product. They have to keep doing things to get people to watch their stuff. Like
Yeah.
you can't just say, "Well, we don't have viewers because WWE's hot. We'll just sit around and wait for them to not be hot." That's not a good business strategy.
I get that. I'm not saying just sit around and wait, but I think I think there's a point right now where AEW can do basically anything and a large chunk of fans will be like, "So what? WWE's better."
That's true.
Anybody can show up on AEW TV and have a massive surprise, and tons of people would be like, "So what? I'd rather watch it WWE."
Well,
There's got to be something that makes
your
those people
point
go, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Well, the problem that we have discussed and everybody else has discussed. Yes, AEW is making strides, but they're still trying to unprogram their first 5 years. And the first 5 years, like you just said, big debut, lights on, lights off, and then
Yeah.
And that's one thing, that turned me off to it. Oh, but someone's there. Okay, great, they're there. Yay.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, they're not even on TV.
Right.
Wait, what? I thought
At
this
the
was
time,
a big
I
deal.
think that was necessary as they were building their roster. When they first started, it was largely a group of indie wrestlers. And they started building their roster of people that had big star power. So I think, of course, at the building the roster phase, there was a lot of big debut, big surprise, big debut constantly as they were signing people. And then it waned. And when it waned, people lost interest because, we have a pay-per-view that doesn't involve some sort of massive big debut.
Right.
And people go, oh, that was it?
Yeah.
I don't think they've lost the audience forever. I
Yeah.
I do agree with you that like if they keep doing what they're doing, slowing the pacing down. I've noticed like the last couple pay-per-views, Collision, they're starting to pace the show better. It seems like letting stuff digest because you can't just throw, a 1,000 things an hour at people and expect them to enjoy it. It just doesn't work. So I've definitely seen a lot of that. For me, it's like anything else. Like I like good matches, but if it's just a good match, I kind of don't really watch it. Like, but if somebody's doing character work, then I'm like, I have to pay attention to what this person's saying. I am a huge fan of what Jericho's doing right now. I don't like the learning tree segments in the ring, but his character and what he's doing behind the scenes, backstage, Ring of Honor, like all of it, I find wildly entertaining. I think he's hysterical, and he makes you have to watch.
Yes. So that's an interesting thing to me because he's definitely like playing the heel role in trying to get, people to boo him because he's calling himself the King of New York and all that. But at the same time, there's definitely people that are fully buying into it and really, really, really hating him. But then there's those of us who are loving it, going, this is just hysterical.
Yeah.
Like leaning into all the criticisms about him, leaning into like everything that people dislike about him, and being that just smug, arrogant ass that he's so good at.
It's layered. It's layered, and he's making references to like meme culture. Like he's making all these, but he acts like he's out of touch with everything. It's really interesting. Yeah. If you really pay attention to what he's doing, there's a lot of thought that goes into it.
Yes. Grand Apple. Grand Apple.
Hey, they were live from Hell's Kitchen last night. Come on.
I love that he's talking about taking the Staten Island ferry to places it doesn't even go.
To the meatpacking district. Who knew? Yeah. I didn't know that was a ferry stop.
Oh my God.
I lived in the Northeast and in particularly the New York, New Jersey area all my life, and I never knew that there was a Staten Island ferry stop at the meatpacking district.
See?
Who knew?
King of New York, Chris
brought
you up to speed. There you go.
I've been on the Staten Island ferry a bunch of times. Never went there. Oh my God.
So a couple of the big things that happened like across the board this week, like stuff that really jumps out to me, especially lately, is big character stuff, big storylines. Again, you guys talked about it before, but the stuff with the New Day right now is so crazy entertaining. I never would have thought that this would have gone well, but it was brilliantly done. And even when they were at the Netflix thing, like New Day was out front interacting with fans, or Woods and Kofi were, and they were like, "Hey, we're the only people that came out here to talk to you," but they were getting booed mercilessly because it's fantastic. And they were being shunned in the locker room. They get the Miz treatment, like all that stuff is really funny to me.
Yeah, they have forced a change in vernacular. It used to be Dom Mysterio heat. Now it's New Day heat. Because they get booed twice as loud as Dom ever did whenever they try to do a promo or anything, man, the universe is not happy with Woods and Kingston at all.
Yeah. So can I tell you guys, we've talked about like both companies and other companies are just constantly adding more and more content because everything's so hot, more and more content all the time. We're seeing it across the board. So it's kind of forcing us to really pick and choose what we have the time to devote to. So there are certain things in WWE right now that aren't piquing my interest. Like you said, Front Row, like some segments you're just not as into. That's normal. Like some segments you're like, oh, I have to pay attention to this. And some segments are like, I can tune out for a few minutes. The stuff with the New Day and Kevin Owens, those two things are what's keeping me interested in the WWE product right now. Not even the Bloodline. Like my interest in the Bloodline is starting to wane a little bit. Like I'm still watching it, but I'm not as like super into all the story details as I was. But the New Day and Kevin Owens is keeping me interested.
What is it about Kevin Owens specifically that's got you?
Because you feel everything he says. Every single word that he says. Like he's just got you, and like he really feels it, and he really believes that, and he makes you believe that. He made me interested in watching Saturday Night's Main Event when I wasn't that excited going into that show, but I was like, oh man, what KO's been talking about, like I gotta see this.
So I find this fascinating because Neil puts in the chat, heel KO is awesome. Okay, here's a guy that package pile drive Cody Rhodes. He beat the shit out of him in his tour bus. He's done all this heel stuff. But to your point, when he speaks, I go, yeah, he's kind of right. Like I kind of agree with what he's saying.
You want to boo him and you want to not like him. You want to hate him. But when you listen and absolutely well done on the promos, the man's sitting in a rental car, just talking to his phone. But yet you're drawn in and you're listening and you're like going through like, well, I have to hate him. He hurt Cody. He hurt Randy Orton. But damn it, he's right. Now you're there sitting in your chair like, I don't know what to think now. I'm supposed to hate him. I'm supposed to boo him, but on the other hand, he's kind of right. So
and Cody used the chair.
Cody is a heel. Don't listen to Dave LaGreca. Because Dave LaGreca is a heel. Bully is the face.
Yeah. So this is kind of the discussion we were having the other night on Zoom is like Bully always talks about with heels, if you're enjoying it or if you're, loving it or smiling at it, then they're not a real heel. But right. I think that's kind of another element of new kayfabe is that like there is so much gray area. It's not just black and white. It's not just, full good guy or full bad guy. Nobody is a full good guy or a full bad guy. Everybody has elements of both in them. And it's your perspective that's going to decide which side you side with.
If you're going to cheer or boo, no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to should we carry this conversation onto the air? Because I feel like it's important.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So we talked about this the other night. Like I'm a huge fan of Kevin Owens. He's a performer. I'm a big fan of Dom. He's a performer. Give me a wrestler. He's doing a great job. MJF. Go right down the list. There's one person who's made the news recently who I believe has legitimate heat, like heat that makes people angry and want to turn off the product. And that's Tessa Blanchard.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going to happen with her. I'm reading stuff online. She may have signed or may not have signed, whatever. I don't know. I've heard enough stories from people that I know personally, good and bad, to see I can spin all kinds of narratives. I won't do that because that's not calling anybody out. My point is that there are people that have real legitimate feelings about this person. not wrestling, not storylines, but oh my God, like I had this interaction, or I have a friend that did that. Like, they could really use this. Like, there could be a very interesting, if done right. And I would love to hear. I would love to hear the Core Four's thoughts on this. If done right, that could be one hell of a redemption story for a true heel.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I very much agree. I don't like to cancel people when I don't like personally, that to me that's like conflicts between other people that I'm not involved with. I think I said this last week on the show as well. And something that I always kind of think of in my head is like, if you go back to eras of the past in pro wrestling, and we've heard so many stories from so many legendary wrestlers about who didn't get along with who, or who was an asshole, and blah blah blah. Like, imagine if Stone Cold was just fired because someone in the locker room didn't get along with him. That's kind of what I try to keep in mind, is that just because somebody doesn't get along, or somebody did a shitty thing to somebody else, like, that's people do shitty things to other people, and I don't necessarily believe that they should like lose their job and lose their entire career just because they had a conflict with a couple people that may or may not have been resolved.
That's a fair perspective. I think if you're going to put somebody on your programming that's going to negatively affect the perception of your company, you do have to weigh that out.
Yeah.
You kind of have to weigh it out. Like, that's not being canceled. That's just making a business decision whether you want to put that person on TV. My point in bringing her up is that there are fans and wrestlers alike that love and hate this woman. Very much on the extreme. And
very polarizing.
Kind of what you want in wrestling. So if behind the scenes they've worked, whatever, I don't really care. But like, if they've figured out a way to make all this work, I think there's a hell of a wrestling. There's a hell of a story.
Yes.
I completely agree. And I think that's kind of what I said last week on the show, that's just, that's between them in the locker room, in the backstage with the people that work for the company. That's between them. If they can work it out and make a good storyline and a good product, all right, I'm in. Yeah.
But the reality of wrestling, not reality of wrestling.
Why we gotta talk about Booker T? Why you gotta bring that evil to the show? Why? Get in the corner.
Look, I love Booker T. Booker T is awesome. I'm not saying I will not publicly say anything against him. He's amazing.
Great guy.
He's a great guy.
Shit commentator.
But the reality in, like Bully always says, and we always say, like, the more real, the better, as long as, nobody's actually getting hurt. Anybody's family's being at risk or anything like that. Right. But everything that Drew McIntyre is involved in has been fucking incredible. From the Busted Open stuff to Raw, and just everywhere he appears, it's like, and I guess we'll pull the curtain back just a little bit. Like, we know people that were at the Busted Open party. Elder Mongrovian Mike was there, and we know people that worked there, and a lot of people were shocked when all that happened and Drew left. From what I understand,
that was a shoot, brother.
There were plans to do other things with him that just didn't happen. So whether
in fairness, he was pissed off after eating a bunch of hot wings. So there's that.
Yeah, fair. But I love it. I just love everything about that.
Yes. Yeah, Mongrovian was there, and he even said, like, in a normal situation, he probably would have, said hi to him and just, shook his hand or whatever. But in that moment, he was like, I am not saying a word to that man.
Hopefully he passes by without incident.
Yeah. Yes.
I do wish that they had gotten some footage of him leaving, like going out to the car, and like,
that would have
that last parting moment, but it was all unplanned. So it was brilliant. It was really, really brilliant. And everything he does is like, impactful. So I think
Mm.
I can't wait to
Yeah.
see what he does next year.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting. I think his character arc is one of the more interesting things that's happened in WWE in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it keeps coming back around because remember he was off TV and off events for a while, and with everything else going on, kind of maybe faded into the background a little bit. You weren't quite thinking of because of everything else going on, but a couple of Claymore kicks later, and the big angry Scottish guy is right back front and center again. And even more interesting now because of who he's Claymore kicking and the things he's doing. So,
well, yeah, and
Agreed.
the other people involved in that story, like this version of Seth Rollins, which is a far more serious, far more like he genuinely hates CM Punk. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know these people, but I mean, Seth Rollins has been spewing hatred towards CM Punk since forever in interviews and media, and just, hey, this guy abandoned us and he's a cancer. And like, whether that was long-term storytelling or he may genuinely just feel that way about the guy, I definitely believe it.
I believe it because you know what, when they were talking about it on Busted Open today, Denise and Mark, they were talking about when Seth Rollins was interviewed by, I think it was Nick Hausman, and that's when he said the comments about like, oh, I don't want him here, he's a cancer, blah blah blah. You know, that was while CM Punk was still in AEW, so you can't convince me that was part of some elaborate storytelling long-term plan, because he was in AEW at the time, and as far as we know, at that time, there was not an idea in anyone's head that he was going to be going to WWE at some point shortly after that. So yeah, you can't convince me that was some sort of long play, because there would have been no plans at that time.
Right.
Yeah, and if somebody said, hey, like, I'm good friends with Seth Rollins and he's been planning this forever, I probably still wouldn't believe it.
Right. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Hey.
Hey,
You say so.
Okie doke.
Yeah.
I don't want to end on a negative note, but there's a couple things that really kind of bother me this week. Like the Grayson Waller effect was bad. It was not a good segment. And they don't really have a lot of misses these days. Like, they're either like pretty good to really good or great, but like that was just, in my opinion, not good at all.
I did catch up on the highlights. I caught up on the highlights today. And yeah, I don't know. I unfortunately, I think that they maybe just don't know what to do with Braun Strowman.
Maybe.
And I think that sucks.
You would think there'd be some, and I will say, like, I thought on Mike, he actually felt a lot more natural for some reason. Like, it seemed like Adam was talking and not Braun Strowman. Like, it was different. Maybe he just was more relaxed or something. He was better on Mike, but what he had to say made no sense, and the whole segment made no sense. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of done with this now.
Yeah. Agreed.
Something else that kind of confuses me is DIY as heels. Tommaso Ciampa is a great heel. Johnny Gargano
is not.
Yeah. That's a weird thing, because everybody wants them to be a team together. Like, the fans are kind of clamoring for them to reunite as a team, but there definitely is the character difference that doesn't mesh.
Yeah, it is weird.
And if we go back just briefly, you go back to Gargano and Ciampa's feud in NXT when they when DIY quote unquote broke up the first time. Yeah, that was great work from both of them, because Johnny Gargano is a uber white meat babyface, and Tommaso Ciampa is a classic shit heel, and that made it very interesting when they did it that in there because of that. And now that they're basically both, I'm not buying Johnny Gargano as a heel. I'm not. I'm learning all I know about Johnny Gargano. Just as for this right here, not to say it might not be entertaining, and obviously we're still going to get fantastic matches, but Gargano, as even when they did the Way, which was supposedly a heel group, it was more just being a-holes than being heels, and being those pompous, overinflated type of characters, which in NXT worked very well for all of them. But I Gargano as a real heel, I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe they'll figure that out. Maybe it's just a vehicle to get them back to a DIY breakup and Gargano Ciampa feud down the road. I mean, they kind of tried that in the main roster and it didn't really go anywhere. But maybe they're trying to reset that feud. I don't know. We'll see.
Let's push aside the negative and get back to the positive, because there was a pay-per-view last night live on Honor Club for those who have it. Ring of Honor presented their penultimate yearly pay-per-view Final Battle, originating from yet another historic venue. There seems to be a trend with this. Keep it going, all of you companies. We want to see you in the ECW arena. We want to see you at the Hammerstein Ballroom. Hammerstein. Thank you, King of New York. For the first time in, I think they said 7-8 years, Ring of Honor went back to the Hammerstein, which they had 12 final battles in that arena. I personally went to 4 of them.
Wow.
And always, and I'm not going to do my normal Ring of Honor AEW.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for that.
We don't. But there was a question, especially since Carrie Silken, who was one of the original owners of Ring of Honor, was on and basically being shut out and triggered yet another epic David LaGreca rant. But he was being shut out of the event, and they really needed to do something to have at least a nod or a connection to Ring of Honor's history in the Hammerstein. Sold out crowd. It was great to see Ring of Honor in front of. We normally, for those who don't watch Ring of Honor regularly, and like me and Deb and like 2 other people are the only ones that do in the entire world.
I try. I don't watch every week, but I try.
You have to remember that Ring of Honor Weekly is taped. So, and it's either at the beginning or the end of one of the other major AEW TV shows. So you either have only half a crowd because it's the early part before the entire crowd gets there for the main AEW show, or afterwards they tape it when everybody's like, screw this, I've been here for 2 or 3 hours, I'm going home. I have to work in the morning, I have kids to get to school, whatever. So to see them in a proper sold out room of their own was fantastic.
It was awesome.
And they had enough of a bunch of little nods and stuff for that, especially me as a long-time original Ring of Honor fan, going all the way back to 2000 when they first started running. First and foremost, you had the return of Black Machismo. Jay Lethal came out.
Huge pop for that.
Came out in the full NWO Savage Black Machismo gear. Karen Jarrett as sensational Sherry Martel was fantastic. And we got that. We even had a Jeff Jarrett run in.
And that was Jeff Jarrett's first ever appearance on Ring of Honor.
Yes.
Which I saw someone post on Twitter that he has now worked for basically every company.
Everything.
Basically every company.
And like I said, there was enough nods. Another great one was Leo Moriarty is the pure champion and put out an open challenge. Anybody that wants to face him for the pure title, let's go. Who comes out? Captain London himself, Nigel McGuinness,
Yes.
put
huge
down the
pop for that.
microphone and put on the tights and wrestled a near 20-minute or near 17-minute classic pure wrestling match with Lee Moriarty. Took the loss, but and a fantastic match, and no hype, no inclination, no, oh, there might be someone.
Leaks.
Nothing.
No leaks.
Out he comes. And the crowd absolutely popped for it. And then, of course, now they did it very interesting. And I saw some flack and feedback on this. And my general comment to those who were negative on it, go fuck yourself. You should have watched the whole show, because the best match of the night was the last match, which was for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship between Athena and Billy Sparks.
Yes.
But the match before that, the quote-unquote co-main event, was, of course, the King of New York, the Nueve, Chris Jericho versus Always Ready, the complete Matt Cardona. And very cool elements in that.
Yeah.
If you don't think that Jericho is the King of New York, just watch the clip of his entrance for that match. Comes out to Frank Sinatra's New York, New York. Has Rockettes dancers doing the chorus
I don't
line.
know. They were pretty good. I mean,
they were
not just any old regular dancer can do those kicks.
But that and they're on stage as he's coming down. Jericho doing the little kick and stuff as they're finishing out the song. Very cool. They had Matt Cardona outside. Now, mind you, it was like 30 degrees.
Oh, it was cool.
In New York City last night. And Matt Cardona does the I don't want to say the WWE long shot, but he was outside the venue and
on
literally walked in. Yeah, on the sidewalk, walked in through the crowd, came down to the ring to do his entrance. So credit to him, because it was fucking cold.
In his Ghostbusters gear.
Yes.
Which then he did post a picture that he went to the Ghostbusters firehouse
in gear. So
in his gear.
And again, a fantastic match.
Great match.
But overall, it's one of the things that I love about Ring of Honor, but I really wish they would capitalize on more. You have fantastic talent, very capable of at least not recapturing, but recreating some of the magic and interest that old Ring of Honor had. And they just, for whatever multiple reasons, they don't pull the trigger. But if you have the chance, watch Final Battle, watch clips from it. It was top to bottom. Even the pre-show matches was very entertaining. And in Ring of Honor, especially, they're given time to work.
Yeah.
There are no 3-minute squash matches in Ring of Honor, even on regular Ring of Honor. Even if it's intended to be a squash match, they still get time, and even the person getting squashed has time to, build an offense and get some offense before they take the loss. So, I'm upset that there is no discussion of Ring of Honor and with the Max deal or anything like that. But I still have hope that they're going to do something with them and help push it forward. So
I kind of think that they're being intentionally tight-lipped about Ring of Honor and their part in this deal or whatever. Whether or not they're still working on a deal or working out details or whatever. Right. But I do feel that they are intentionally being very tight-lipped about it. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I want to mention.
Oh, I have one last high point, and thank you, Doug, because you're wearing the shirt. We had a Danhausen sighting.
Yes.
Ring of Honor became Ring of Hausen again last night.
For those of you that were on Zoom with us last night, oh my God, I popped big.
Yes, we had a Danhausen sighting. Very nice, very evil, complete with teeth, and he cursed.
Yes. And he has since posted online that it seems like he will be more of a regular member of the ROH roster now.
Very good.
We don't really know what his been happening with him. We hadn't really seen him much on AEW TV at all the past year.
We've been seeing him
But
more on
oh my
GCW.
God, super. Yeah, and he's been everywhere on the indies and on GCW, but yeah, that was awesome to see. One thing I wanted to piggyback off of what you said about kind of the stuff about like the old ROH. I actually kind of liked that it wasn't a full-on tribute show. Yes, like you said, they have a lot of people on their roster that they could have done something or other, but I think that they are very focused on the current product, the current storylines. And one thing we always say about WWE recently is that their WWE is doing a great job of sprinkling in the legends, and without the legends taking too much of the spotlight away from the current roster. We saw that with the NXT ECW show recently. It wasn't a tribute show, but the legends and stuff were sprinkled in nicely without taking the spotlight away. I feel like that was kind of their intention with Final Battle. They had some things sprinkled in, honoring past Ring of Honor history, whether it was something they said on commentary, whether it was, an appearance by someone, like Black Machismo or Nigel. They had those things sprinkled in, but they still are very focused on the current product and the current storylines. It's not a tribute show. Final Battle is a yearly pay-per-view that is part of their current product. It wasn't a special tribute show. So that's all I wanted to say on the topic, is that I really did enjoy the little elements that they had without being like
Hit
detracting from the current storylines and the current matches that were happening for the roster.
So before I just one thought on that. So keep me honest, but I'm pretty sure Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor. AEW did not buy Ring of Honor. That is not an AEW product.
Correct.
Even though Tony Khan is the president of AEW, he privately owns Ring of Honor. So it could be that that's being treated as a separate entire entity from a TV deals perspective. That might be served up somewhere completely different. I mean, if you look at WWE, like NXT is treated like a completely separate product because it is. It's on a different network. Everything's different. Like, so it's entirely possible, to your point, that Ring of Honor's whatever is going to happen for it next is just not going to be part of some lumped in AEW deal.
But NXT is still a WWE product. It's not a separate company.
But it has a separate television deal.
Okay.
It's on a different network. It has its own contract with CW. Right. So even that's treated separately from a platform perspective.
Yeah. And with ROH, largely the roster is different. The people that you see on weekly Ring of Honor are not people that you see on AEW TV.
I think it's awesome that Athena is the face of the company and has been for a long time. She's the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion, male or female, of all time. And I think that's incredible. I've been a fan of hers a long time. And I have friends that know her pretty well, and she's apparently an awesome person, so that's great. So I'm a big fan. I hope may her reign continue. As much as I know folks in the chat would have liked to have seen a different result, I'm happy that she retained.
I think they're playing the long game.
Well, it's been 2 years. So
Bloodline's been going on for 4 years.
I just have one last thing on Final Battle. There was an absolutely missed opportunity last night during the Pure Rules match. There was an allegation of cheating, so they brought a second referee down to prevent the cheating.
Oh, yeah.
That was the perfect opportunity, and God, I hope it happens some way, somehow. Imagine this, and for old school Ring of Honor fans, you'll absolutely get this reference. They call for a second referee, and Todd Sinclair lumbers his big ass down to the ring to be a second referee. Talk about having a tie to old Ring of Honor and reference. How they have not included Todd Sinclair the referee in on their stuff is a crime. I'm sorry.
Agreed.
It just I miss that guy, and he absolutely needs to be a part of this. You have all the other elements. You know, you have Caprice and Ian Riccaboni on commentary. You have Bobby Cruz doing the ring announcing. That just would be one more chef kiss inclusion to bring in Todd Sinclair.
I get
It could be that Todd's not available. Maybe he's doing something
Yeah.
else. Who knows? But because I'm sure someone would have reached out, right?
Yeah, I still have hope.
Yeah, okay. I do too. All right, folks, we ran y'all along. I appreciate everybody hanging on with us. Super fun show. I don't know what the next couple weeks look like through the holidays. We'll stay tuned to our socials. We'll let you know. Deb, where can people find you?
Same as always, That's So Debonair on everything across the board, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, everything.
John?
I am at Twisted Metal Fab on the Twitter machine and Instagram, and of course, also on Instagram, you can keep up with the exploits of the most dangerous weapon in pro wrestling. Of course, I am talking about the Ass Kicker 9000. AK9K, and you can follow his exploits at AssKicker9K.
I can confirm AK9K was a draw at WrestleCade. Get in the booth next year.
Hey.
You can find me at PW Front Row on all the socials. You can find us at Nation's Corner on Twitter and The Nation's Corner on all of our other socials. Stay tuned, and we got a lot of stuff coming up. I think 2025 is going to be a pretty exciting year for the show as well. So thank you, everybody, and we will see y'all next week. Later.